Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Please let me know. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live background workshop. Let me just get rid of this. We're doing things. Again, welcome. Welcome to my live background workshop. I'm doing one of these. I have no idea how to create tutorials. So the best option that I have is doing a live workshop. So yeah, I'll be giving you insights on how I create my amazing backgrounds that you have seen in many videos. Because you probably recognize some of these, especially these. I love these. And even these. You have, again, probably seen a multitude of the backgrounds that I have done for the multitude of videos I have done. And backgrounds are really important because not only do they tell part of your story, but they are also literally where the story is taking place. So backgrounds being both part of the story itself and being the setting is one of the biggest things that can either help or ruin your story. And while Gotcha Club and Gotcha Nebula have a multitude of backgrounds themselves, they don't always work for the setting that you're trying to go for, which is why a lot of the times you just make the backgrounds yourself. But it can be really hard to create backgrounds. Not everybody has art skills. Not everybody has the time to constantly chroma key their stories. And for those who don't know, chroma key is essentially you tint your entire background green, blue, or pink, depending on the character, and essentially do the story in a green screen, as if you were trying to be a Marvel movie producer. That's a joke because Marvel uses green screens constantly. But again, some people don't have artistic skills or don't know where to find good backgrounds, or they don't have the time to find those backgrounds, do that art, and chroma key. So often their best bet is to either stick with the backgrounds that Gotcha Club and Gotcha Nebula give you, or with objects, you make them yourself. But that can get hard. So today I will be showing you my methodology with Mr. Average Kun here to creating backgrounds in a story. So first, I have chat here, so I can see your replies. So words, use words. So for those who don't have the storage space or don't have Android or Windows PCs, I will first be creating a background with you guys in Gotcha Nebula, because Gotcha Nebula is on Apple, Mac. I think they can even run on Linux, maybe. But basically, for those who don't have Windows or Android phones, this is for you guys. And those who don't have space for modded ports of Gacha Club. So for the first step is to ask yourself, what do you want? Where do we think this guy is going to be? Yeah. And let's just say we're designing a bedroom. Well, if we're designing a bedroom, what type of guy is this guy? Since he's simply average, we will go with a run-of-the-mill average bedroom. So first thing is, do we want wallpaper? Do we want just a classic windowed bedroom? I think just for simplicity's sake, we will go with this. We'll use a room as our starting base plate. I personally like to just scale up the room a bit to help provide a bit of extra focal point, have the window be a bit more out there, have the bookshelf be a bit more seen. And then, because it's a bedroom, we're going to need a bed. So this is where we're going to get straight into the objects. Now, with creating backgrounds with objects, you have to remember you only have these many spaces for objects, if you're lucky. So what I do is, first layer is reserved for things you know for a fact you're going to need. So this will be shelves, this will be the bed, this will be pillows, there's maybe even a desk. That's what the first row of objects is reserved for. The second two layers are for all the extra fancy, let's spice up and customize the background. And then the third row can either be for some extra spice, or you'll leave them there. You'll leave them as blanks for whatever you need in the story. So we'll do a bed. If we can find the bed. I personally don't like, for perspective reasons, this bed. So I will almost always choose one of these beds. We'll go with this one because this one gives me factory or asylum. So we'll go with this bed. We'll go with a nice wooden frame, and we'll do a mattress color, and we'll just give him blue bed sheets because blue bed sheets. Yes, this is an average guy. We'll do a desk. So I will go over, we'll do this desk because it's the simplest. We'll go wooden desk, give him generic black computer. Now you might be noticing as I'm doing this, I'm setting object shadows to 0 so that there is no shadow. Any items that go on tables, you turn the shadows off. I know it's weird, the shadows kind of tell you a bit about where they are, but in a lot of my videos, the characters are either using awkward poses or tilted, or I'm using multiple characters for one pose. Shadows make it messy and very obvious. And if things are floating, like objects often are when they're on tables, the shadows are very noticeable. So I often turn the shadows off. I heard somebody say that he is a gamer girl. So we'll grab a couple controllers. or even this if you want to. But we're going to do a table. Tables are always nice. We're going to need a chair. So we'll grab a chair. So if you want me to slow down, please let me know. I'll show you something interesting to do with mismatched items that you don't exactly entirely have an idea of what to do with. I'll show you something interesting to do with these guys. But so that we now have our base items, your first thought is going to be just stick them in place. No. Well, you can do that, but your backgrounds can often end up looking unbalanced. So this is where we get to, while we're designing this is where we get to the next part of this, scale. Give me a moment. So backgrounds and scale. What do I mean by scale? It's basically, how is this background going to be scaled to the character? And that's why I have average Kun. He's at what I consider to be neutral height of 1 in standard gacha club. And say I want him to appear this big in relativity to the background, or I want him to be about this big relatively to the room. Everything will be based off of how is the character going to look on average in this space. That is scale. I'm going to put him to here. No, I'm going to tune him down 1. There we go. Because shelf. That is a tall shelf. He looks good against the window, so we're going to have him at this. Now, I will show you ways to play around with scale in the next 3 backgrounds when I'm playing around with Gacha Nebula. I have a couple characters there prepared where I'm going to show you interesting things that you can do with tall characters versus smaller characters. So everything, again, will be scaled to this guy. I always suggest that you make the background before you pose up your characters, because you're going to be doing things like this with the characters in your scene. Basically, I am divvying how big the bed needs to be for him to look like he's comfortably sleeping. So I'm going to place the bed here. This is how I'll be lying down. We're going to put him into a sitting pose, like he's sitting on the edge of the bed. This is how we're going to play around with the X and with the Y value of objects. Playing around with the Y value of objects is going to allow you to move your characters around the screen better. So we have about the position that we want the bed, but he doesn't exactly look like he's sitting on the side of the bed, is he? So what we do is we get it so that he's just behind the bed. And then we're going to scale the Y position down just enough. And here's another thing. To help prevent your backgrounds from looking flat, make sure that there's a bit of space between the edge of the wall and the posts of the bed. It just Helps it look like there's space there. Now, with him sitting on the side of the bed, we can freely move him in front of it without him clipping behind on accident. It will be really hard for him to clip behind the bed. Next, where do we want his desk to be? We'll say that his desk is around here. I'm going to get him into another sitting pose. This will be him at his desk. We're going to get our desk, and we're going to once again scale the desk to him. Now, objects that are more in the forefront, you can play around a bit. You don't need to play around with the Y a bit, but you can always set it down a little bit and put the Y-axis up so that it's not as easy for them to clip in front of the forefront object. Now, I will show you how to hide this. These are really good sitting poses, but the desk is always there. I'll show you how to hide that when we get onto the extras. Now, chair, they scale up the chair. Heck, you can even remove the desk to make this easier, but chairs are hard. I either have chairs scaled up to same size the character is scaled up to, or one larger, depending on things. Here I have it one larger. It just looks right. So we set it behind him. You think that we just set it behind him, but no, I'm going to slightly level it up and bring it. Technically it's down, but the Y says positive, not negative. That's going to be a bit of a big disparity. If I say bring it down, the Y-axis is going to show positive, and if I say bring it up, the Y-axis is going to often show negatives. So just remember that. This is so that he can often stay sitting while still being in the chair. But you don't want to bring it down so much because we want him to still be able to stand behind the chair. You're going to be playing around with the character often. Make sure that he doesn't look too weird when you're changing focal points. I did bring in a table. I don't think we'll need this table, but that is all right. We can repurpose that with something else. There's going to be a lot of clicking. Clicking is a universal feat. Or if you're on mobile, tapping. We're going to hang these headphones off the computer. So now we've got misclick. Get back there. There we go. Okay. So now that we've got the base of it down, this is where we can spice up. This is where we can spice it up a little bit. Since we didn't have a use for the table, I'm going to exchange the table for a book. Now, here's a trick with books. You can use this book, or you can even use this book to showcase books. But for folders, books, laying pieces of paper, the ruler is your biggest friend. So we're going to grab this, we're going to paint it white as if it's a textbook. We're going to copy. Your copy button is going to be your friend. When you're working with a ton of the same item, the copy button is going to be your friend. Now, if you've worked with backgrounds long enough, you'll know relatively what Y positions to set things to. I know for a fact that oftentimes for desks, tables, you will want either 100 or 120. Trust. Trust. I'm going to exchange this ruler out actually for this. Now this will be what helps me hide the desk under the desk. I'm going to bring this back down. Hydrate. This will be what will help hide the desk under the desk. We're going to change the color of this book to blue. Now, if you're on Gotcha Club, you'll want to adjust these as much as possible and stay away from the object tint as little as you can. Because unfortunately, if you want a darker scene, your tint is going to be your best friend. And if you use the tint to color the objects themselves, you will limit how you can darken your background. And so try to use the main colors as much as possible. Somebody said add a guitar. Now, this is Gotcha Club, not Gotcha Nebula. So I'll show you how to get around as much as I can the item props placement as much as I can, because it's actually not very easy. So I'll do that right now, actually. So we will go to instruments. We'll give him this guitar. We'll remove everything but the display hand. Now, unfortunately, with Gotcha Club, this is about as much as you can do, which is really sad. But I'll show you the saving grace that is Gotcha Nebula and what they did. So we'll want to find a sleeve that is skin tight as possible. This one. We're going to use a prop, color the guitar. I'll go blue because his entire scheme so far has been blue. We'll do gloves. Well, so again, because this is Gotcha Club, unfortunately, this will likely be the best I can give you, is making the hand look like a hook. So we'll color everything here black to make it look like it's a hook, keeping the guitar on the wall. And we've put it on the lowest so you don't mess with it as much. Now, I wanted to use one of these sitting poses, but it seems we'll have to use one of the standing ones. But essentially, because it's hanging on the wall, you won't get many position conflicts unless he's literally flying. So we bring this object in, and we use it to cover the desk. And because the desk happens to be by the wall, we don't have to worry much about overlap, conflicts. So we can simply just line it up as much as we want. And now we've got a desk. It's a completely enclosed desk. Fairy lights are actually very hard to make. That's something you might actually have to do in post-processing. Or if you're lucky, and if you're using a mod that happens to have a fairy light foreground, use that. But fairy lights are not easy to make. So, books. We're going to bring in the books now. See, using a Y position of about -120, the book sits on the desk nearly instantly. We're going to grab another book, scale it up to about the same. 114. We're going to lay it behind, bring up that Y position a little bit. And now the books are stacked. We can even offset it a little. Now we've got stacked books. It's amazing, isn't it? Now, if we didn't already have, since we're using a background like this, we already have the nice little backgrounds, things that we don't have to add in ourselves, such as the bookshelf, the painting, the light, the window. So we're lucky on that. But the floor is looking a little bare, isn't it? Well, bring in another object. We'll edit it. We'll use this one, because why not? We're going to use this as a rug. And using something like this as a rug, wow. We're going to, it's really nice. We're going to scale it up. We're going to scale it up to the point that it's big enough that we can't see that. And we're going to put it behind everything, as far up as it can go, and we'll bring it down until it looks right. And now, he's got a cool looking rug. Let me adjust this screen for you guys so you can see better. There you go. Now he's got a cool looking rug. So, this, as your average room, we've given this guy a really good room, using objects to create a background that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get it with Gotcha Club's regular backgrounds. It seems to be blue. Now, this is where you're going to use the save and load scenes, because you're going to potentially be using this background a whole lot. Now, your first thought might just be, just leave the objects alone. Just leave them here. We won't ever really need to touch objects again. But trust me, if you're going to be making backgrounds, you're going to be moving objects. And sometimes you make a mistake and an object goes wee. You've accidentally out-clicked somewhere and now your object's displaced. So sometimes it's nice just to get everything how you want, have your character in a nice neutral position, and save the scene. Now, if you're coming from another scene and you're trying to load a scene, keep these 3 bottom ones open so you can test if you're either about to accidentally override an existing saved scene with one that you don't need. make sure you click load. You click the other scene just to make sure that you're loading a scene before you load. Well, what if it resets? That's a very smart question, because I accidentally had to make one singular background scene. I'll show it to you right now. 3 separate times because the game crashed. I wanted to pull my hair out. I promise you. No. Making this scene right here, I had to do it 3 times. 3 times. So after you make one, after you save it, if the game crashes, there is no secured chance that the game will save it. So you simply exit the game. After you create your background and you save it, you exit the game. So that when you go back to it, no, I clicked the wrong thing. So when you go back, it hasn't disappeared. Now, if your mobile device does something, for me, the only way that I know how to save scenes if your mobile device does crash is save it to the save and load. Exit the game. If that isn't working for you, I don't know how to help. I feel like I'm a little too loud. I'm going to just lower my sound real quick. Tell me if it ends up being too quiet for you. So, I showed you how to do it in Gotcha Club. Now, I'm going to show you some more mood set scenes in Gotcha Nebula. We're going to go here. We're going to go to this one. So, I'm about to show you a couple tricks. We're going to use another average character, except she's more feminine coded. We're going to have your tall character, who's set at a bigger height. We're actually going to increase his size a little bit, just for the sake of this. This will be your god, your monster. This will be your stand-in for your generic tall person, who's also moody. And we'll have your smaller character. This guy's more masculine coded. She is more feminine coded. This one is meant to be a bit more neutral. But we'll show you how to play around with height perception and all that. So, Gotcha Nebula. I love Gotcha Nebula. Thank the Lords for the upcoming 1.7 update, where we'll get more save scenes, more items, more props, a few more backgrounds. But Gotcha Nebula provides things like rooms. Let me just hide all these objects. It allows you to increase the scope of your background a little more. Allows you to do a lot. Like the background Gotcha Nebula has is awesome. But sometimes you just want to personalize the rooms a little more. And it's where I love these specific backgrounds. They are amazing because you've got wallpaper Because not every room is going to have fancy striped wallpaper or decadent. I love these rooms, if you can't tell. And the split, the light split just adds a little bit of flavor. I love them. They're this room, but more. So we will create 3 rooms. We'll create a more darker room for this guy. We'll create a more, you'll actually decide a little bit more what type of room. And we'll create a more softer, fluffy room for this guy. And if you want size disparity, that's the size disparity. So we shall start off with, we won't do rooms specifically. One type of background you might have seen on a couple of my other channels is alleyways. I'd bring up an example right now, but I do not think I have them on my computer. I think I actually have them on my laptop. I think I actually have them on my tablet. That's not easy to bring up on a whim. Yeah. Oh, I might be able to. Hold up. Will I crash my computer by doing this? We'll see. How many channels do I have? 3. No. I technically have 4, but only 3 of them are in active use. Actively. There is, yeah. Come on. Why do you hate me? I have an example of one of them. There we go. Alleyway. So here's something that you need to, that I'm going to show you how with another alleyway scene, is how to make it adaptable / modular. Because there is a difference in alleyways. There are alleyways in a superhero town, such as this one. There's a back alley in a mafia town. And there's your alley that is off a public street. And all 3 of those alleyways have very different vibes, clutter, and context. Because your alleyway right off of a public street isn't going to be this cluttered. And your alleyway in a mafia town isn't going to have oddly colored gadgets just sitting at about. So when making backgrounds, you need to consider not only the characters, but the setting, the story, the place. Here, we're going to come up with a quick story just for the purpose of creating another alleyway scene. that will be for this guy. He's looking monstrous. He's looking evil. But he's not where he is. Well, he's not, this isn't his natural habitat, let's say. So we'll bring in base Chan as our neutral. Here's how we're going to be playing around with scope and perspective again. Because Kun is much taller, much more monstrous looking, it's bigger in general. Part of this is going to make him look a bit too big in the space, while she looks like she'll fit right in. That's what we're going to need to consider when making this background. So, what type of alleyway is this going to be? We'll say it's inner city, cluttered, but we'll say not only is this back alley a walkway for a few businesses, but also maybe a shady base or two. Like, base as in, those tech bases in like heist movies where the entrance is always some odd back alley and it's in a basement and there's suddenly all this tech around. Yeah. So we're going to go to objects again. And as I said, we're going to stick with what we know we're going to need in the scene up here. So we're going to need a dumpster. Here, we're going to use two of these to create the dumpster. We're going to make them the classic green tone, completely green. Delete the shadow, copy it, and we're going to paint the top of this one black. This one will be our bottom, this one will be our top. We're going to need boxes. Now, if I was creating boxes in Gotcha Nebula and Gotcha Club, I'd use this item again, but it would be two of them scaled down. But because this is Gotcha Nebula, we've got cardboard boxes. We're going to do the classic cardboard colors, which will be these. We're going to do 3 of them, 4 of them, and one will be open, and one will be a slightly darker shade of box. We will need a wanted poster or 2. Maybe we can do a wanted poster. Because this is an alley where there are a couple businesses, it won't be as dirty, but you'll still likely find flyers. There's a few tables maybe. Boxes most definitely. But it won't be incredibly dirty. So we won't have necessarily broken toys, we won't have random arrows, we won't have rags. It will be a relatively clean alley. If I can find the paper, there it is. I'm going to do one white. I'm going to do a white one. And we'll do a slightly yellowed one. Now, again, I did say that because we're thinking that there's a few businesses here, a table, chairs, speakers, those are something you could theoretically find here. So we'll be sure to add those in. But we'll only do one table. We'll do We won't do a speaker this time around, but we will take a chair. Black. Keep its wood finish relatively on par, but we'll darken the outline for the sake of the black. Now, because there is a dumpster, we'll add trash bags. There. The black trash bags. We'll need quite a few of these. Hello, I see some new people here. This is a background workshop. You guys can follow along with me as I'm showing you about how I create backgrounds to give you insights to creating backgrounds for yourself. Because not everybody has the art skills to create custom backgrounds. And not everybody has the time to green screen. What else should we add? What else? This will be good. Now, I often like to make as much as I can in here, so I don't have to come back. But I guarantee you, you will be coming back. Now, because this base cone is going to be made to feel a little out of place here, we'll remove him temporarily and use base Chan because she is our average scale, meaning that she is set to what I would consider an average height. Blue screens are actually used as green screens. I think blue screens are actually coming a bit more popular and replacing green screens in the film industry. So, we're going to create our dumpster. Dumpster is not this short, is it? So, we're going to have one part here. Base Chan will be put in front to help us adjust the Y position better. Second piece needs to be the same scale. We're going to place it on top, but only lightly. There is our dumpster. It's pretty simple, but also, if she were to go behind it, she'd go behind both. That's why we adjusted the Y position of the second part of the dumpster. We can also put her inside the dumpster. She has become a trash goblin. So, based off the dumpster, because the dumpster has suddenly become the focal point of this, everything will be stemming off the dumpster. So the boxes will be put by the dumpster. With boxes, not all boxes are the same size. So Having different sizes for your boxes will be good. Now, when dealing with the cascading items like this, you want to put them as close to the other item as possible, so that, again, the character is either in front of all of them or is behind all of them. So that she can be here, she can be here, without having to do much trickery. I'm going to put you behind a little more. Some boxes are really big, some boxes are tiny. Keep that in mind when doing stuff with boxes. Now, because we have posters are always hard because paper objects don't play nicely. Don't worry, that will happen, but as you're just creating it, you'll be fine. That seems to be good so far. You want to put posters at eye level almost all the time. Now, not all posters are straight, especially in an alleyway. So tilt your posters and papers sometimes. And layer them. Layer them papers. Now, we're going to put a table inside the dumpster. Remember how I said you could, because both dumpster parts are about the same size, that things can go behind them easily? This is where it gets helped out. Tables, waist height. I always put my tables about waist height. Just makes it easier. So we're going to tilt this table, make it look like it got stuffed in here. Now, interesting thing, with the dumpster being just barely off grid, we can make this table look more like a piece of wood. Now it looks like a random piece of wood thrown in. Chairs. Put this chair in. Have it sticking out the top. And bags. Oh, you became tiny on accident. Whoops. My bad. Even I can make mistakes. You will have to do adjusting. For items like this, comparing to your average is always good. Just makes things look a little better size-wise. Now, doesn't this look quite awesome? We're missing something, aren't we? I feel like with this being business, a sort of business alleyway, needs a stain. Maybe. Something grotty looking. So, we'll use this item. We're gonna go to edit. Gonna find something that looks right. For this, your effects in the object tab gonna be friends. Nope, that's disco ball. Those are stars. That might work. Now, remember how I said use this as much as possible? Otherwise, your options for tinting will be limited. Unfortunately, with effects, you kind of have to use the object tint. I'm gonna go brown. I don't want to tint it too much, otherwise we don't get the nice layering. I'm gonna lighten that up or darken it. That looks good. That looks like an ominous tint. Ominous tint. Why did I say that? Ominous stain. There we go. Now it just adds a little bit of more environment to this. But, as somebody said, we can make this modular. We can change the object tint red. Now we've got a pile of blood from who knows where. Maybe it's his, maybe it isn't. But certainly looks a little too big for this place now, doesn't it? We're standing by here. Everything looks a bit too big. The posters are too high for him. And things just look a little off. We'll get him back in the pose again. Now, this looks a little flat, doesn't it? Now, if you were playing around in Gotcha Club, the best way you can play around with making it look a little harmonious is tinting it darker using object tints, not that. Sorry, I misclicked. Using object tints. You'd raise the tint of this, match the background, but Gotcha Nebula has a lot of these that, depending on what you do, can harmonize your scene. This could be good for a evening, increase the tint, get a sunset, increase the tint more, you get this. Change the color of the tint. So, this happened. I did something I should have done that I literally just told you guys to do. Once you finalize your scene, you save it. Because this broke. Gotta exit out and go back to it. And all the progress we just made will not be there anymore. Oh my god! We got saved! lucky. We got lucky. So I'm just going to real quickly, so nothing bad happens, ensure that our progress is saved. That is what happened with the scene I showed you previously. This one, where I had to do it 3 times because of something like that. So yeah, with Gotcha Nebula and even Gotcha Club, when changing colors for the background or foreground, your game can crash. It is not a Gotcha Nebula specific thing, it's a Gotcha Club thing. Just be wary of that. It can make you lose hope. But let's try this again. Change the color, the tint. Gotcha Nebula's tint colors can change. That's cool, isn't it? Now, there's a tint that I often like to use. It's this one. Doesn't look like much right now, but you increase the black tint and you get this effect. Doesn't that look ominous? This is an effect of Gotcha Nebula that I have used a lot. And you'll see it with this. You'll see it with this one. Heck, it was even here in this one. This tint specifically on mobile is different. On mobile, it does a flat black tint that only gets this sort of grimy effect when it's at full black tint. But the forefront effect itself is a flat black tint. And it is amazing. Somebody recognized the siren background. I put it there because I knew you'd recognize it. But it's a really awesome tint, and I love it. But these tints that Gotcha Nebula provides us can just, that's an inverted one. It's really cool. Can help harmonize a background very well. It can just add just a little extra flavor to a background that you don't typically get from just tinting the objects themselves. So I use them to my advantage. I use this one for snow. This one I've only used once. This one's a nice grimy film effect. That one's an old film effect. That one I've never used, so I can't tell you context. These are a bunch of TV lines. I've used this one for flashbacks because they add despair. You guys get a spoil. I hope you like it because I'm proud of this. They add a level of despair to a background. Now this one's just ocean. Oof, what happened there? Yeah. Now look at that one. You guys get a spoiler. Yep, Storyline Remake Episode 2. But these forefronts help take a background that looks a little flat to just harmonizing it a little bit. Isn't that cool? Here, I shall take a picture of the difference so we can compare. We're gonna go full screen for this. Doesn't that look a little nicer? Doesn't it just blend a little better together? So, we've made an alleyway scene. Let's make a garden next. Because gardens can be hard. While we make the garden, I will show you how to make those double-decker beehives. These guys. Double-decker beehives. So, real quickly, let's get back on. You can stop bothering me. We'll get back on that tent. We'll save the scene. Remove every object to get a baseline. And because we've already saved, you don't need to worry about accidentally moving an item. Because you're leaving the scene, and when you come back to it, you'll be clicking that load. So, garden scenes are a lot harder to make than, say, a greenhouse. Because with a greenhouse, you could use the already existing greenhouse background as a baseline, and you can build off of it. But for gardens, it's a lot harder. So for our baseline, I think I'll go with this one. The difference between this garden and the garden I'm going to make is that this garden is a greenhouse garden. It's grown in a semi-advanced greenhouse, and this, I purposely picked one that looked like it could be a painted background, because that's what it is. But this one, I'm going to try to make it look semi-natural. Really hard to do. I'll choose this one. Yeah. We'll make a garden with a pathway with this one. Almost all your gardens, depending on which nature background you use as a baseline for your garden, will look a little different. I don't know how I feel about this. No. Again, gardens are really hard. I'll just use this one for simplicity's sake. We're gonna go up, just for the ground space. Oh, I want less ground space. So, what are we gonna need for a garden? What are we gonna need for a garden? Because this guy's gonna be our average. We're gonna make a garden based off of his scale. We're gonna need trees. I hate these trees. I hate these trees with all of my body. I despise them. They are too thick and not tall enough. So we're going to keep those leaves. I'm going to darken the trunk. And we're going to make 5. Just kidding. We'll only do 3. I like to do gardens with a bunch of bushes. So we're going to grab the bush and make it green. Bushes. Philosophy. Lighter in the front, darker in the back. And green. It's almost how I do all my bushes. We're going to need a lot of bushes. We're going to take this one. We're going to color it slightly different. Just for that variety. And we'll sparsely copy it. Variety. We're going to take one of these bushes and we'll make a copy of it. We're going to exchange it out for grass. We're going to adjust the colors again. Brighter in the front, darker in the back. We'll make 2 copies of it. I'll make another copy so I can use it for these. You're thinking, the gardens don't often have pots. This is a natural garden. Gardens have a lot of pots. Pots are very common in gardens. But we're doing a bit of a natural garden. So we disregard the pot. Because in reality, what we're going to be using is up here. I'm going to make a copy of it. Make yet another copy. And we are going to steal another potted plant. I just dropped my mic. I have retrieved my mic. We'll be using the bonsai pot for them bushy leaves. Make another copy of it. And now, what you all been waiting for, flowers. Now, you can do the flowers 2 ways. You can grab a bunch of these flowers, color them how you want, duplicate them a bunch of times, vary the flower in color, and you'd get there. But that I don't know how I feel about that. I've done it before, but I've done it for flower pots. I've done it for flower beds. But for a more naturalist garden like this, I've cheated. Outright. And I've used an effect. Not the couch. This. And going with the flow, I either keep the colors or go a little overboard with the tints. Apologies. I think for simplicity, I'll keep the color. Now, if you were making a garden and got your club, that's all you'd need. You can work with that. Hell, if you even want to, go for the effect with the leaves and add that to your scene. However, the Gotcha Nebula. Gotcha Nebula has a plant I love to use in gardens a lot. The vine. We're gonna get away with the pot by coloring the pot green. Trust. And that's what I'll use. I always save at least 3 to 4 spots for story element objects. Say if a character's riding in on a bike, well, I've got spaces for a bike. If something's happened and they're bringing boxes through, I've got the room saved for boxes. If they're playing guitar out here, I've got object space saved for guitars, bouquet. Basically, these are just in case I need something for the story spots. So now that I got everything I think I need, time to start building. Trees. Make them as big as possible. Put them as far away. Again, I really hate these trees, but I gotta work with them. Gonna make this guy, gonna use 18. Because he fits nicely onto these trees at a nice 18. But again, nope, we're actually gonna change it to a 16. He is short. Things are going to be scaled to him. Looks a little small, but we're about to make it make sense. Because these are trees. They're, frankly, massive. So, say I want this tree to be climbable. I'm going to put him here. Because this is a background tree. Wow. I can't actually make it necessarily climbable. But we can still try. There we go. Now, if he's in front of it a little bit, say he's climbing on here or he's hanging off one of the branches, he's still pretty big. Fortunately, I can't put it in the background as much anymore. So he's just here. He exists. We will also Y position this so that he can comfortably stand behind there without much issue. Now, probably want to have a tree blocking this side. Maybe. See how that looks. I don't like it. So we'll have yet another background tree. All right. Now he can be on top of this tree, staying behind that one, and he looks so good so far. Time to add bushes. Bushes are really good for hiding tree roots. So keep that in mind. I want him to still potentially be able to get behind these bushes. So we'll do that. And he can still stand in front of them just fine. Another thing we can do with bushes, stick them in the front. Let your characters end up getting really close to the front. And play around with the size of the bushes, the angles of the bushes. Make some bushes really tiny. Raise them up. Add volume to them bushes. Look at how fluffy them bushes are. Look at this. The garden looks so full now. And we've got varyingness here. He can partly be in front of the bushes now. He can be behind them with good space. It looks like he's having the time of his life. Sorry. And here or there, mixing them grasses. Grasses, behind trees, in front of trees, behind bushes. Yeah, just a little bit of spice. Spice in the sense of, ooh, this looks nice. But there's not the other kind of spice. Just adds a little extra detail to your trees. Because where there's bushes, there's almost always tall grass. This is what we'll bring in. There's flowers. And make it look like these flowers are growing on these bushes. To an extent. We'll do what we can. To place some objects in front of other objects, you'll have to increase the scale and bring them back down. You often have to do that with tables. Those trees that we made earlier, they act as really nice ways to add texture again. You can make it look like they're branching off of existing trees. And vines. Vines will often hang off of trees, in front of trees, behind trees. This is a really cluttered and complicated background. The reason we made the pot green is so that we can get away with it being a leaf. A leaf. Kind of looks like a leaf, doesn't it? No. You'll see it better if I do this. Never mind. I apparently cannot adjust for you guys. Boom. The most complicated background. Now, you might have seen me use the flower technique before. And you're not wrong. Let me grab it, because I have my pictures up right here. Garden of the Gods. So yeah, the rose flower technique works best if you're kind of in a semi-enchanted area or where the sparkles don't look too out of place. Yeah, a garden like this was looking a bit too grimy. Realized I had the foreground on. So another example of complicated background would be the winter version of the Garden of the Gods. But that one was more environmental storytelling than it was pure. Yeah, here it is. This one was more pure environmental storytelling than it was background design. Because he's in a ton of cold bushes. And those exist. But yeah. Save the scene. Now, he kind of looks at. He looks. We scaled the garden to him. So he looks like he's in a really vast garden. Hell, even if we scale her back, if we scale her down, even she looks like she's in a really big garden. This is how you this is scaling. This is when you know you've done a good job with scaling. Now we stick this guy in here. He looks a little tall here. He looks a little out of place. Everything seems a little too big for him. But that's also because he's tall. Alrighty. What's the next background we should make? Should we make another bedroom? But specifically a decked out bedroom like this. I cannot make a city. I don't think I can make you a city. But I could do a balcony. I could show you how to do a balcony. City balconies are a little hard. I can't do a city. I cannot make y'all a city. But I could do a city balcony. Depends on what style and perspective of balcony we want to do. Because both are different. I think I'll do an overhang balcony because it can also show a bit about how balconies work in general. So, first off, for a city balcony, we need a high vantage point. We need to start off with a background that has a high vantage point. We'll use this one. And we'll scale it up a little bit. I'm going to shift it over. Personally, that's personally. Shift it up. Because we want just the city. We just want the city skyline. We'll have our character. Say we want them to be about this big in the scene. Looking over at the city. Don't worry about this. It's only temporary. I'm gonna do a trick. I'm about to show you guys another trick. Keep her head. We take off her arms and clone her. Then we give her back her arms, but take away everything else. And now we combine the two of them. We get a pose that looks like she's leaning on a balcony. That's what we'll use as a reference point for the balcony later on. So, what objects are we going to typically need for a balcony? Well, first off is railings. There are two styles of railing that you can pick. There's the pipe. Nope, that's not it. Where's the pipe? There's the pipe. Oh, there's three technically for railings. There's the bamboo stick. And there's this. The stick. I shall go with these actually this time around. We'll color this darker, but you can do any color that you want. I'm going to duplicate this a good few times. I'm going to go with at least 4, but I think we'll only need 3. But you never know. Now, we're going to need support for the railings. You can use all 3 of the types that I just showed you for railing support, but you could say use the plunger. Hell, you might even be able to work that into it. For a more rickety one, you can use the wand object if it's here. But I don't think the wand is here. Disregard what I said about the wand. But you can use a lot of things for the railings. But for a little decoration, I think I'll use the bamboo sticks. I'll also color them darker to match those. And I don't know how many of these I'm going to need. So I'm just going to copy. Oh, I'm going to copy a ton. Because this will depend. And you'll need a balcony floor. I'm going to use this. And I'm going to color it black. For this object, in order to not get the weird shadow, you almost always got to use the tint. But I'm coloring it purely black for simplicity's sake. So, first things first, we get the floor in place. We got to get it decently behind her. And what's really going to matter with something like this is this. So, we take a first pull and make sure that it's well in front of her. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. If you want to play around with it, you can get it so it's in front of her, but not in front of her arms. So you get this nice look. Now, I'm going to grab one of these. We're going to do a scale below the first one. So, 2 scales below, actually, looks like. Match this one to the same scale. We'll layer it. Railings are always hard for me. Sometimes they look right, sometimes they don't. But you want the back to always be smaller than the first one. Now, you're going to want to get these out. And one will go at the edge. Make sure they're all the same size. Put them down to about the same Y position. Looks like I'll need to actually drop it a little bit more. There we go. And you're going to want to evenly space them as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to at least try to get it looking right. See? Apologies. So these are down about 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 notches down. About matches the scale these guys have. But with these, you want to try to match the same spacing at a smaller scale. The sneezing? Apparently allergies are getting to me right as I'm filming for you guys. Because I was completely fine all day. And then I'm sniffling here with you guys. Give me a moment. I'll be right back. I'm back. I also grabbed myself a beverage. Stay hydrated. I need allergy meds. hopefully the sniffling should decrease soon. So, as I stated, with the back sector, what you can do if you want is remove the character temporarily. Well, behind the character necessarily in the moment isn't all too important. The character is likely going to be moving around during your scene. So you want at least behind them to look good as well. So, as I said before, you want to try to keep the spacing of the backside about the same as the spacing that the front has, just at a smaller scale. This is why we made so many copies, because I think I might end up needing more. Even with all the copies I've made. Now, somebody asked about the sound. Either that was my sniffling or it's the clicking of my mouse. It could also just be my chair. My chair can be very squeaky at times. So there we go. That is our balcony. Quite a good looking balcony, isn't it? We will once again save it. Now, we made a total of 4 backgrounds so far. That's awesome, isn't it? Wow. Remember, it's not always clear. But usually in Gotcha Nebula, this is the signal that you're loading another scene and are accidentally overwriting. But sometimes, yeah, just have to double check. So, we've made a total of 3 scenes. That's cool, isn't it? Oh, there's even this one I made for the stream. I hope this workshop so far has taught you some things for your own stories, because not everyone feels like they have the skills to create custom backgrounds, nor has the time to chroma key. Story backgrounds are really good, again, for telling a bit about the story. Makes sometimes makes the setting look good. For me, backgrounds used to kind of just be a thing I had to do, but they ended up becoming a much more important thing to me. Here's an example. I can show you another one. There's this one. These are some of my more recent background endeavors. But sometimes the story can't always be told the way you want through the prefab backgrounds. Character design workshop. Oh lordy. Oh no. Okay, if I do a character design workshop, it would have to be split up. Because what type of character design? Do you want zombies? Do you want fandom character designs? Like this guy? Animatronics? There's the kind of, how do I go about creating humanoid animals? How do I go about creating humanoids? Because character design often is based around the rules of your world. Let me give you an example of humanoids if I still have one. Well, other than some of the things you already know. Yes, I can show you world rule set character design. So you can probably guess what the name of this guy is. This is the Lucifer of one of my worlds. Here is his boyfriend. That is supposed to be a humanoid spider. Don't question. But if I look and peer into another world, this is what the Lucifer looks like. You can find all my channels on my homepage. It's labeled group chat. And I can show you his wife. So yeah, character design often is based around the rules of the world that your story takes place in. And if you're going fandom, like this guy technically is, there's also personal philosophies that I go after with them. Especially if that fandom doesn't actually have set designs. So it'd be a whole thing. Because as you can so clearly tell, if I bring it up, my design philosophy has changed quite a bit over the years. Do you recognize them? Need I remind you? Click, 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 click. them. They've changed a lot. Yeah. Gray and Holly. Hell, even Shadow changed a bit. Because I made him taller. Is the design for me. In fact, I think I'm actually wearing almost the exact same outfit right now. Hair up in a ponytail, bandana in hair, jacket with my baggy pants. I'm almost in the exact same outfit right now. Taking off my bandana. I don't need this today. Oh yeah, I started remaking old stories. I can show you another disparity between my new design philosophy and my old design philosophy. With grab it, grab it, grab it, grab it. There we go. There they are. Come on, browser. There you go. So that's their new designs. This is what they looked like before. For you new fans. Look at that. Yes. With these redesigns, I'm making them way less weird. I'm much more mature these days. I will assure you guys that the new episode 8 will be a lot more psychological horror, but not get demonetized by YouTube. Because, oh god. Why did I do that? Why did I even think that was a good idea to post? Yeah. I am planning also for you guys who are OGs. You know that almost the entirety of the series was focused on same-sex couples. However, the third story does have a little change. I'm planning on expanding that for, it's not a change, but there was a heterosexual couple, and I'm hoping I can expand that out a little bit more, make it a bit more obvious, flesh it out a little bit more. Let me find them. There we go. There they are. There they are. Took me a bit to find them. There they are. Look at them. So, for you New Age fans, this is a straight couple that exists. When I remaster the story that this takes place in, I'm hoping to expand their story out a little bit more because it kind of just happened. And I am, for those who like straight couples, I am planning on a straight couple story in the future. Just to break some things up. Yeah. No, don't do that. The principal and the school nurse. So yeah. By the way, since I have you here, and you are trapped with me. Well, you're not trapped with me. I just want your opinion on something. As I am currently in the process of working on a world's revolution and the island at the same time. Pardon me. For these two. I'm planning on making Julian a tailor. A tailor. Takes the leather and the cloth made by the clan and actually works it into some usable clothes, because right now all the clothes they have are scavenged from a plane crash. So hoping to get a tailor, and that's gonna be Julian. But he's gonna be like second warrior. I feel like he needs something else. I'm not exactly sure right now. That's it. I like how his design ended up. He totally deserves that. It deserves that. Yeah. I I heard quite a few people saying that they hope they get off the island. I'm not planning on having that happen. We already kind of have a butcher. Uh, Williams, the butcher and cook. However, I'm also, in addition to Julian being a tailor, thinking of maybe having him also work with fish better. No, they will not get off the island. They're staying. They've been there their entire lives. What do you mean? So, yeah. So, next workshop I do, you guys want me to do a character workshop? Or would you rather a live stream where I make characters you guys request? Because a character workshop would have to be so many live streams. I don't even know how I'd split it up, because I have different design philosophies based off of my different worlds. Maybe instead of a character design workshop, what if we go about redesigning the storyline characters, and we go over points that I originally did and how I'm either going to nix, cut, or expand upon those ideas. What do you think about that instead of a workshop? Or I do both the workshops and this, but instead of it just being an entire live stream of redoing just a singular live stream of redoing all the characters. The storyline characters are part of the character workshop series. I will. I'm looking through the third chapter. Oh my lord, it's a mess. I'm going to have to rework this story. So it is the longest one of storyline, and the story is a mess. I definitely love the idea of throwing medieval steampunk into a world of modern technology. Oh, that'd be nice. I'm still keeping that. The colorful world. That's what this is called now. The colorful world is it's futuristic modern. Throwing a guy with steampunk kingdom era into into oh, by the way, before I completely end this workshop, somebody save me. Um, boom. I have a redesign for the king. The king's gonna get a little bit more of a spotlight, as you can tell. Yay or nay redesign? I think I did a much better. I know that I kind of changed up the tone from this to darkness, but I think it does them well. And I have securely set this place. I have set this place. Do you want to know where this takes place? Because France is nearby. Roar. I have decided that no, hide. I need a neutral map where I do not expose my location. Please. Please. World map. Okay. Okay. So, canonically, I'm setting Siren Story along this coast, this area, basically, because Mr. Pirate Man, this guy, he's French. He's a French pirate. French pirateering. That's basically this entire shtick. He's a French pirateer. He is French. Well, he's not French. He's English. He is English, but what are you doing? This guy is French immigrant. No, his father was a French immigrant. His mother was native tribal. So he speaks French because his father taught him. And I'm setting Wolves Revolution. If I zoom in around here, you want to know why? Because I needed to set reasonable ecology. So wolves would have semi-realistically evolved in the dense forests and Alps of Germany, Austria, Rome, Italy, and it makes reasonable lineage for Shadow's father, who was a demon. And this area is also known for kingdoms. So Dalga Kingdom. Well, not Dalga. I think I'm changing the name of the kingdom. For now, Dalga is like a placeholder. But demons are worldwide, but most stories and myths are Greece, Italy, Rome, Japan. How do you say demon in French? Demone. Demone. Well, it's literally just demon.
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 Demon. It's apparently demon is French. But then again, England is 5 languages trying to fit into a trench coat. Anywho. Thank you all for joining me along with this background workshop. I can't think sometimes. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed this background workshop. It was really nice to be able to talk to you guys. And you guys being here, I'm glad you've taken an interest in how I've done some things. Chapter 2 of Wolves Revolution should come out eventually. I literally lost motivation because of school and many other things. We've been redetailing a car. Another one got wrecked. Not totaled, surprisingly. We bought another car. We've been cleaning other cars, detailing more cars. A lot of stuff with cars. I'm so done with cars right now. College. But I will I am in between that working on completing stuff. So, while uploads will be significantly slower, I'm trying. I am also working on the Halloween special. Surprise, surprise. Uh, I talk about doing backgrounds in Gacha Nebula for the purpose of making things easier, but I am having to art create the backgrounds for the Halloween special. So, wish me luck because I have to create at least 6 times 2. So that's 12 backgrounds total. 2 versions of the same background, basically. So, have a good night tonight. Have fun. Most importantly, be creative. Bye, melon seeds and Spirit 2 came over today. Bye bye.